However, in studio, I have still members of this organization live in studio, and I'll start with Neema. I know her second name can be difficult, so I'm going to allow each of them to, be part of the show, because it's not an interview, it's a conversation. So guys, karibuni sana. I'm going to allow Neema to start by saying good morning and, introducing yourself, telling us how many hats you wear, in what capacity you're here, and really what to expect out of this conversation this morning.
Hi, I'm Neema Bagamuhunda. I'm a performing artist for a very long time. I also work in media. I'm a producer and a puppeteer at Bundi Media. I also dabble in writing for TV, but my favorite part of my work is dance. I'm a choreographer and a dancer, and I also try to put together dance productions. Yeah.
And when we hear productions, no one really ever thinks of that or think of dance productions. People think of film production, movie productions. They just don't think there's a dance production. And I like that you guys are bringing out something that is there, but not as well talked about. So thank you very much for, of course, creating time. So we're going to narrow down to the choreography today. Okay. All right, no problem. And of course, he said, I prefer to be called Mr. Ondiege.
Yes.
Good morning, sir. Karibu.
Morning. Asante sana.
Yes.
Yes, kwa majina naitwa Ondiege. I am a contemporary dance choreographer and a dancer. I am the artistic director of the company Dance into Space, which does dance productions. And we are the ones who are producing this work locally after partnering with the Birmingham Repertory Theatre, who are represented here by Tyrone.
Yes.
And so Tyrone writes the script, and Neema and Jared are doing the choreography, and I am behind the production as the production company that is doing the work locally.
Amazing. So there's a whole teamwork here making things a success. I am a lover of teamwork, so I'll start by appreciating what you guys are doing together, even in collaboration with the United Kingdom representation that is coming in shortly. So remember, like I said earlier on, the panel is made up of 3 people, and of course joining us virtually shortly will be of course Tyrone, who is the director and scriptwriter, just like Mr. Ondiege has said, when it comes to this particular dance production. Let's start with the assessment of mambo ya usanii, it's sanachat. I would bring in a hip-hop artist here, some celebrity who does some style of music, and Kenyans would relate. I don't know if you gave me an overview of where we stand as dance productions in this country, from either of your perspectives. So we can start from there. Mr. Ondiege, and then I can go
thank you. Yes, dance production is more like any other production in the arts, whether it is film or music, in terms of the process, the elements employed in it, the logistics, the funding, the resources required, and of course in terms of teams, And dance is even much bigger, if you ask me, because I will tell you that it is one that kind of brought everything together, because what dance has done today, it has even married film. It has incorporated theater. It is working within the multimedia aspect, working with digital technology, yet bringing in the body and space. And this kind of linkage is what makes dance probably a much bigger production process than the others, because it brings all the others together. And again, it is contemporary dance, and the contemporary dance is crafted out of the experience of theater. Theater brings all the other art forms. Literature, architecture, design, environmental issues, social issues, existential issues, and then body and voice and music and space. So again, I think this is the best in terms of being the genre that is multimedia, than many genres. So yes, dance is a major production, and it is picking up in this country. We are seeing companies coming up to embrace dance processes.
All right, I like how he said, that it is picking up and we're seeing companies beginning to embrace from his perspective. I'd love to hear if Neema then shares your sentiments.
I think dance productions, people do watch dance productions, but they don't relate to them as dance productions.
They watch but do not relate.
They don't look at it as a big-time production the way they look at theater. But it's like Ondiege said, it's the same process. You need to put your team together, you need to put the logistics in place, And when people think of dance, sometimes they think if it's more than 5 minutes, then it's not a dance. We have dance shows that are 3 hours long, 2 hours long, 1 hour long, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, depending on what you want. And we have like solos, duets, trios, quartets.
Oh, in dance?
Yes. And then you can decide to have a fantastic set. It's changing, it's dynamic. You can have a plain set. You can have, and you have your story within the movement of the people. And doesn't always have to be like cha 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 cha. It can be slow. It can be lyrical. It can be fast. It can be up and down. So that's what dance is. It needs to be looked at as more than just. It's a part of the storytelling using the body. Yeah.
All right, I like when you say it is storytelling using the body, expressions, and you can watch an entire skit with dance.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, this is actually going to get more interesting. I can see that Tyrone has joined us all the way from, of course, the United Kingdom, Birmingham. It's good to have you. Good morning. I'm hoping it's still the same time over there.
No, we're 2 hours behind you, so it's about, what is it? It's just 6:15 in the morning here. But good to see you.
We are so humbled by the fact that you woke up so early to join us on the morning drift. We had breakfast already.
Yes, well, I've had a cup of tea.
Oh, great. So we had a bit of perspectives on how dance production is actually carried out and being, appreciated in Kenya. But first, let's start with, just introducing yourself. And we have it clear that you are the director and scriptwriter of Raundi Mwenda, and of course in collaboration with Dance into Space. So please just give us an overview of where you think dance production stands as far as art is concerned, even globally, if you may.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm a theatre maker. I'm an actor, playwright, and a director. And but I believe in, I suppose, total theatre. What I mean by total theatre is theatre that draws in, a bit like Don Diego was just saying a moment ago, that draws in all the different elements: voice, movement, physicality. And my work my early work was involved in experimental theatre, and we were, if you like, untrained, and so we just used what we felt was right. So we would use movement if it felt the right way of expressing an idea. So, and then in terms of dance specifically, I've been involved in various dance organizations here in the UK. There's a company based in the north of England called Phoenix Dance Company, based in Leeds. RJC, Reggae Jazz Contemporary. They are another company who've just celebrated their 30th anniversary. And what I found with dance is, it's one of those art forms where people work harder. I mean, dancers work much harder than actors in general, because they're using their body as an expressive tool. And what I find is that by combining the theatre background and influences that I have with the dance world, there's always a layer that you can add to the storytelling. And that's what we're bringing together in this project, is to bring together the elements of visual language, the elements of spoken language, the elements of dance and performance that sits behind that characterization.
Amazing. And I like that you've given us the international perspective and really the experience you have had. We are looking forward to Raundi Mwenda. We already are looking forward to that. And I want to pick the aspect of storytelling. And I want to really hear from Neema some of the stories you have been able to tell in choreography. We might want to trace back on how impactful these stories have been to society, if any. You could pick one or two.
Wow, this is taking me back. One of the first pieces I did was called Cleansing. It was a kind of ritual dance about cleansing, about African rituals of cleansing. When something bad has happened. So we do that all the time, but we don't realize it. We do it through prayer, we do it through cleansing our bodies, we do it through taking meditation breaks, we do it through going on holiday, but it's a cleansing. So it does impact society, so to speak. But the story we're telling right now, it's about the railway, the East African Railway.
That is Raundi Mwenda?
Yeah, that's Raundi Mwenda. So we want to take the journey from Mombasa, when the engineers arrived, George and Florence, and all the way to Kampala, And we tell that through dance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing how history comes into play. I want to hear from Dance, Mr. Ndiega. I'm sorry
Yes.
I called you
Great.
by the
I like that.
organization. And then we could hear how this then, how you guys got to be in collaboration. But first, let
Yes.
me hear where you came from
Yes.
with this idea of the railway.
Well, the idea of the railway has been there since probably 1896, But the concept, came from Nema's partner called Jared. He's
Okay.
not here with us. He's a choreographer and
Tyrone.
Tyrone. So basically, Tyrone started off the idea of working with a Kenyan choreographer to explore the story of the railway line, the Lunatic Express. And it is full of stories. That railway line is as long as 112 or something years since. It's 120 something years, old. And definitely it is all about the story of the establishment, the story of the transport system that was being established by the colonial powers, the story of imperialism, the story of resistance,
Oh, yes.
the story of displacement, stories of investment.
True.
So there are so many stories that this railway line comes with. And as Tyrone is still constructing the script, because it's a work in progress,
Yes.
we are spoiled for choices. We don't know where and what to say more than the other. Until today, the railway line still has a story. Very current issue is SGR, and of course the expansion and the development and the technological differences 120-something years later, the stories of the communities
Yes.
that have heroes who are being seen as heroes who resisted, but again are seen as villains or people who opposed the development. They're being seen as terrorists to some extent,
Okay.
but the communities who they were defending see them as heroes, and these are huge stories. So we as a company, and having had experience in telling stories, part of our background, by the way, as a company, is that we work with people with disability in mixed ability contemporary dance. You will see at Dance Into Space Foundation on Facebook and on our website that we tell stories about rights.
Amazing.
We tell stories about society, and now we want to tell the story about the railway line.
Yes.
Just like we've told the stories about the issues that affect people with disability, their sexuality, the disability rights, through our dance programs. And many, many other years before that, we were doing stories like what Nema was expressing, given an example of, the cleansing story, the stories of healing in Africa, the stories of reconciliation. And when we are affected by things,
Yes.
when we are faced with some adversities or some challenges in society, we as artists respond by transforming those stories, existential issues, into performance.
And I'm so grateful that you brought in the fact that you are not just dancing for entertainment, but you actually bring out real life issues through these particular dances, and they speak to masses. And I want to, make it on a light note just to challenge Tyrone. The name of this particular, production this time is Randy Mwenda. You're the script writer, and I want to understand on behalf of the team, number one, if you understand the meaning of of the topic and why you as a team settled on that particular name. It's quite a story, but yes, just make us understand why this was the best title for this particular production.
The whole project is called Platform Tales Lunatic Line, and I was very interested in how that would, rather than using, if you like, the language of the colonialists on one level, what would the language of the street think of the piece? Right. So the project is one name, and that has its origins with the idea of exploring the world through the railway system. But this particular story has such a specific connection in Kenya that I thought it needed. It felt natural that it should have a Kenyan title. So we, between us, put different names on the table. And when this one came up, I looked at it and I thought, what does it mean? And I thought, I was told by Nemo the idea of crazy movement. And I thought, in some ways that sums up the story we're telling. We're telling the story of crazy movement in terms of the building of the railway line. We're telling the story of crazy movement in terms of aspects of the performance that will come through in the storytelling. So I thought this was the perfect title. We sort of lived with it for a few days, and then it became the title of the piece. And so it was an organic and a collaborative process in terms of searching for a name and landing on one. And as I say it more often, Randima Mwenda, it's sort of more the title of the piece that we're working on, and I feel very, very comfortable and very pleased with it, because I think in this piece, the exploration of language feels like a natural part of the telling of the story of the building of this railway line, beginning back in 1895 with the British government.
Yes. All right, amazing. I like that. I know you might want to add. Do you want to add on that, on how you guys came to the Round Mwenda? I understand you said there's crazy movements. Trust me, as you guys speak, we're trying to actually picture this production.
Yes.
Because the crazy movements and the travels and the displacement, we can already try and picture it. We can visualize it. Please add to why you felt as a team again you'd settled on the word Raundi Mwenda.
Okay.
Well, because there's another layer to this, because the whole, in some ways, we're working in a crazy way. That here I am in the UK, working with the team in Nairobi, and I'm with my partner here, my collaborative partner, Judy Owen, who's the producer here, working with a team in Nairobi to create a dance piece, a very physical thing, and yet we're doing it online. And it's that has to be crazy on some.
Nema, I don't know if you feel the craziness as well. The good thing is that this is all about Usanii, and I'm told artists can be crazy. Creativity sometimes can be crazy. Nema, you want to add on what Tyrone is saying?
Yeah, when the piece began last year, Platform Tales Lunatic Line, it was a collaborative three-way project. There was Tyrone, there was us in Nairobi, and then there was a team in South Africa, Lutando Arts Academy. There was Luyanda and the partner, Tyrone, what was his name?
Nomasonto.
So they put up something in South Africa, we put up something in Nairobi, and they put up something in the UK.
Amazing.
And this streamed online at the same time. So it's also kind of crazy that we were able to sort of pick elements from the South African performance and the UK performance, and we all borrowed from each other. And that's also, we all have railway lines from the British government. So that was their story, our story, and the UK story, and we tell it all together at the same time. That's also kind of around Mwenda in its own way.
Okay.
And this time we have a two-way collaboration. Lutando is still invited as an observer to also comment on the process. And it's still also crazy, like he said, we are working with the UK and we are here in Nairobi, and we're telling the story of the railway, and still it's the real story of the real railway is still getting crazier. Politically, financially, there's a lot of strings pulling, there's a lot of moving parts. So it's still a crazy round in Mwenda. It's, the port is now in the middle of the land, and so yeah, a lot of craziness all around.
She said the port is in the middle of the land, quite artistic again to say. I want to hear from Mr. Ondiega, and then we give you a piece of one of the things you have done. So people can feel a bit of what they're talking about in dance production. But Mr. Ondiega, please add to this, and then you can, usher us into your first of its own kind.
Yeah, Round Mwenda. Let's look at the history of the Lunatic Express and listen to what they thought about it when, in 1896, they wanted to establish a railway line in Africa. They describe it as something that they don't know where it is going. Yes, they know where it is starting from, the ocean. But hinterland, nobody knows how the terrain looks. Nobody knows what's in there. Nobody knows what they want to do with it. Nobody knows what exactly the railway wants to do inside there. Okay. But there's a general feeling that the trade that has begun along the ocean, might want to penetrate, and wherever it goes, it will be able to generate business, it will be able to generate towns, and then again, it is the railway line that establishes the urban system of the hinterland. It becomes a crazy idea where the people who were establishing it in the first place did not know exactly what it is going to serve as a purpose for establishing it in Africa. But of course, it was going to eventually bring business and establish towns and the eventual growth of what we have today as Africa and as Kenya. And again, crazy because it is the way people are working, the way we are working.
Yes.
And then the way it was established, you know, the building of the railway line meant people were displaced, you know, and so many challenges, you know, economically until 100
brought a
plus
whole Indian
years.
community here.
Yeah,
Yes.
it brought a whole Indian community here who established themselves, and they had a
Intermarriage.
place. They had a place in the social structure. You know, the Europeans were first.
Yes.
The Indians were third. Africans were sixth. In that structure,
Yes.
the railway line comes to, the train itself comes to exemplify this by having first class,
Oh,
you know,
yes.
for the aristocrats,
The social class.
you know, second class for the, you know, middle, you know,
Yes.
lower middle class,
Wow.
and then third class for the rest. Okay?
All right.
Really crazy. And again, it has some nostalgia for those of us who used it. Very convenient, very much on time, very much reliable, very comfortable, affordable. And then what? A crazy thing happens. For about 25 years, we lost the railway line in this country.
Okay.
Then now it's back, but with certain interesting, perspectives. The Chinese are over. Now they're all over it. Initially it was the Europeans, and then it was us. Maybe we ran it down. No, the Kenya Railways just went somehow. You know, those of us who used to like it.
Are
stopped
all
seeing
these
it.
things told in this dance production?
Now that's why we are spoiled for choices in terms of storytelling.
Okay.
You know,
This
we
is
have
really rounding
so
one
much
down.
to tell.
Yes.
The railway line that went defunct at some point, then now it was revived as SGR.
Oh,
Here
yes.
it is. The Chinese are running it. What about that? Do you want to say that, or do you want to look at it the way it was in the initial period? And then even when it was coming in, the craziness that it brought, the communities that fought, you know, the heroes that we celebrated, our Syokimau, you know, and the resistance, the heroes, the Kotelela Arap Samoei, you know, why were they resisting? What? And then people who foresaw this, you know, everybody said, every community that had a leader who could see the train said, oh, there's a snake coming and it's spewing smoke.
Oh, yeah.
And then what do? We should arm ourselves. What do you do with snakes when you see them? We arm ourselves. Okay, so people, you know, along the line where it was being established, people had to arm themselves. Somebody called Mugo Kabiro here saw it. Somebody called Syokimau. Somebody called Mekatilili resisted. Somebody called, Samoei huko. So watu ni wengi, stories ni mingi.
Stories ni mingi, watu
Yeah.
ni wengi.
Kuna stories of triumphs, kuna
Yes.
stories of resistance, kuna stories of losses, kuna stories of, heroism. On the other side, we're looking at George Whitehouse, a 39-year-old, man who is given the contract to build the railway line from Mombasa to Uganda.
Yes.
And how is that? His wife is Florence, isn't it? By the time it reaches Kisumu, Kisumu is now being called Port Florence, you know?
All right.
And things like
All
that.
right.
So many interesting stories. And again, there's another Florence in the story. Not just the Florence who's the wife of George Whitehouse. And all this
There's
beautiful...
many-
And I want to go back to Tyrone because he's script writing this right now.
Yeah.
I'm looking at so many names coming up right now. I'm seeing a lot of personalities in this journey. How are they going to be, I know we are yet to see Round in Wenda, but how are you incorporating all these personalities in the story? Are we seeing specific people dancing specific ways to bring us specific energies? What is the script like? Perhaps just give us a glimpse of what it takes to bring out this all, different energies in one story. All right, we're trying to get his sound. All right, sorry, we have lost Tyrone shortly because of a bit of a technical hitch. Tyrone, we'll come back to you because of a bit of your sound, but we're checking that quickly. But let me just hear from, from you guys,
Yes.
especially Neema, and then we could look at one of your videos. I'm just going to mention some of the few that, I have been familiar with. There's a United Kingdom platform, Tales, that of course, that has been telling that particular platform, Tales. There is the Kenyan South Africa collaboration. There was the South African Flash Mob. I hope I'm correct. You can go to the YouTube channel and start checking this out. For the Kenya platform Tales. and the South African platform Tales. And when I get the name Platform Tales in each of these, I'm very curious why they are even called Platform Tales.
It's a story of the railway. All railways have platforms.
Oh,
from
interesting.
Where you board the train. So basically, we're telling the story of the railway. Anytime you want to travel from point A to point B, you go through a platform.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was, I think, one of the first images we had was the separation of the classes at the platform. There's these aristocrats in the first class, the Indians in the second class, and the Africans. And the Africans, you know how we carry our baggage. We have live animals, we have sacks of things. This is like 19-something, you know. Yeah. And then there's the Indian class with their different smells and different goods that they're carrying. Then there's the aristocrats with their nicely packaged. And of course, they're not carrying their own stuff. They're just boarding the trains looking very regal. So the story of the platform, all the transitions of the platform over the years. Yeah. So what are the changing imagery on the platforms?
Amazing. I like when she said
The
every
lions.
train. The lions.
Yeah, also coming to the platform. And, you know, somehow Africans thinking that the lions enjoy others more than Africans.
Okay.
Why? Because Africans are living in the environment that the lions are used to. And then the Indians are coming to build the railway and they have the perfume and everything. And more than 1,000 Indians, you know, are mauled by the lions. You know, more Indians than Africans. And the question is how and why. And that explains when the lion sees the platforms, it becomes, you know, a passenger. I mean, in that way, but really, it is about the train and the journeys that the generations have gone through, and those of us who were taking it earlier on maybe have stories to tell, different from those who were taking it in the 40s. Nema is talking about people coming in with livestock and stuff.
Yes.
You can imagine if in the 80s you could carry chicken and you know, in the train, what about in the 40s? What about in the 30s? But then again, there was a racial difference earlier on.
So many stories.
So many stories. So where were Africans going in with their livestock and where were the others going in with their briefcases and their nice bags?
All right.
Yeah, so it's really Raundi Mwenda.
It's crazy indeed. And of course, I want to find out if Tyrone is back. Tyrone, can you now hear us? All right, we're going to take a short, breather here by watching one of the videos Raundi Mwenda. But we cannot wait to hear from you again. You are a very integral part of this conversation. So we will sort that by all means. As crazy as Raundi Mwenda is, we are going to sort that. But guys, I want to give you a bit of a feel of what this Raundi Mwenda is all about. You're a Kenyan, you are an Indian. From what I pick, anyone who watches this dance production can relate. Historically, this is so enlightening, so awakening, so don't miss it. But before we give you the entire production, take a look at what Raundi Mwenda is all about in a snippet. Look at this video. When I hear that song, it's very familiar, so I'm going to challenge you guys on set. This song is very familiar. And Safari is Journey. And we saw those movements. That looks like it was a train. And we saw a train animation, right? Please tell me more about that video. We picked a lot of details, including different sacks. Like I said, someone had a briefcase. Someone had a money bag. If you're watching in Nigeria, you know you saw a money bag. Walk us through that video.
So this time, when we put up the dance production, we're incorporating AR.
Okay.
So that's why you have the small train there. So our set will be, how do you say, sometimes virtual, sometimes video, sometimes animated, and sometimes
Beautiful.
it's just projected, how do you say, imagery. So on stage you're seeing like something, but on the screen on the back you are seeing the set, the live set, the changing landscape, the trains that are
Yes.
passing by. So we are incorporating AR technology into the dance performance.
Beautiful.
So it takes a lot of planning and tracking and a lot of technical things. So yeah.
So art is not just as easy as everyone thought, especially in dance productions. You guys are giving us a different perspective to art, really. And I want to hear what Mr. Ondiega would say about this particular video.
Yes.
You know, you just don't come up one day and there's a dance move like that. You know, a lot was incorporated. She said there's a lot of hard work around it, creativity, AR. Please add more.
The body movements begin to kind of depict the train. And the dancers were trying to get creative with giving the image of a train that's moving at one moment. And then there are many other moments that the bodies will depict. You will see them acting. As we've discussed actually, dance nowadays incorporates all other aspects of all the other genres of the arts, digital technology and stuff, but also acting, also singing,
Yes.
also body movement in terms of dance, and a lot of design. And the actors also, you will see the passengers at some
Yes.
point. They will try and depict who the passengers were, how they looked like, and even now. So you will see the bodies showing us the train, showing us passengers, showing us certain issues that we can begin to conclude that this is the society that they lived in at that time. And we will begin to understand Africa and the relationship that the powers that came from Europe had with the Africans out of that. But again, AR,
Yes.
augmented reality.
Yes.
This is a little step ahead of virtual reality.
Okay.
Now, what it does for us who are still working on the stage with bodies and still prefer to be consumed live, we want our bodies in space to also be part of that process. And therefore, bringing in augmented reality suggests that we are going to be seeing physically the way we see people dancing on stage,
Yes.
with the proximity of auditorium and stage, but at the same time, we're going to be in a film theater where we're going to be seeing movies around these physical bodies.
Yes.
So the audience has a chance to see the physical space, the virtual, the physical, the virtual, and the augmented.
Beautiful.
And in terms of looking at the three spaces at the same time. So the audience actually is seeing the camera recording you.
Yes.
So sees you being recorded by camera and sees what the camera records. So in the third space, it is you, the physical body, merged with the virtual set.
Wow.
And this is important for us because the story of the railway may require that we reproduce certain images that we may not be able to access. In fact, Tyrone is playing a very important role because 99.9% of the documentation of the history of just the railway line and even Kenya is in the UK. In terms of media documents,
True.
footage, photos were taken by people who either migrated back to the UK or they are still in the museums of the UK. So a lot of information is out there. And it is therefore possible that we can only reproduce it virtually because it will be really unnecessary to reenact
Yes.
that history. But it would be nice to bring the footage or the photos of the image or the images live through augmented reality.
And I want to see if Tyrone is with us. Tyrone, can you hear us? All right, as we get him to just, give us a feedback. Sally Daniels is watching live on Facebook, saying, great show, Anki D, looking lovely. Salamu kwa Sheila na Edgar. Wamesalimika sana. And of course, Mwende saying the power of art. I totally agree with you. There's so much power in art, and especially when art comes together, what kind of force might that be, especially in impacting society? And of course, thank you very much, Controller WB, for saying good morning. You can also talk to us at Lookup TV and of course the live stream on Facebook. I'm sure Kenyans have questions. It can come out complex, but of course, ask your questions right here, Mr. Ondiege and Nema and Tyrone joining us from the United Kingdom will be able to break down what exactly is in your head that needs clarity. Now, Tyrone will be joining us again. There's just a bit of a hitch. We had him earlier on, and we'll continue to have him. But before we get deeper into the discussion, again, I want to share with you a video. That is, I'm just going to get that around here, the South African Flash. If we can look at the South African Flash production, if that's okay with you guys. And
Flash mob.
Yes?
The flash mob.
The flash mob, yes. Let us know what you think of this particular production and would love to answer your questions and concerns pertaining the same. Here is the flash mob.
At dawn of commerce, this is the beginning of the show. It happens early hours of the morning, where security guards come in, check over the entire station to ensure that everything is still in order. They are followed by a group of cleaners who are ensuring that everything is spot on and clean for the station to be utilized well by the promoters.
Wow, that is the flash mob. And guys, I'm thinking it's going to get more interesting through this discussion. Please tell me more about that particular piece. What I've seen there is quite different age groups. You know, I've seen the young, I don't know if they look like teenagers. So dance as an art doesn't really pick on an age. I don't know what you'd say about that, because this for me is a variety, except I didn't see many girls in this one. Okay.
It was shot during their winter, so they had to dress warm. Yeah, and
okay.
they didn't get access to an actual platform, so they're pretending that that's their platform. As you can see from their first movement, they look at the train going by, and people start to clean up the station like happens in the morning. And then the people come in now to board the trains, and then their experiences. It's an African space, so you'll hear different sounds, different beats, And the idea of a flash mob is that ordinary-looking people can actually do something together. There's always a sense of unity.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. The sense of unity now even coming in, as much as I talked about age groups, now the sense of unity. And I want to hear from Mr. Ondiege, just as you're watching this looked to me like a lot of young people, and in this current era, we've been looking at, building talents, encouraging people to be, jumping into talents, but we see a lot of youngsters rapping in music. You want to say something about them being involved in stuff like this, like Raundi Mwenda and dance, and telling stories through dance today?
Yes, true. Young people would be easily drawn into dance because they have the energy, and dance requires the energy. But also, dance has just gone beyond the physical body expression.
Yes.
It has become a storytelling process, or say, gadget. And that means that even people who are not physically able, as it were, flexible, strong, and beautifully shaped, and well-trained and athletic-looking, are the ones who do it. Actually, other people who don't have those fundamentals are also able to do this dance. As, for example, the ones with disability in our programs. But also people who are elderly. It is possible that this genre of dance, this contemporary dance, that also marries digital technology and works with people from different profiles, is the only one that is capable of bringing in these groups of people. We call them marginalized. Call them people who are hitherto not seen in the space as artists. Okay? And it is possible that it is only through our projects that we can bring in elders, for example.
Oh, great.
We have programs that have brought in elders,
Great.
Where it's only people above 60
Amazing.
that are coming into dance sessions. Some of them are like classes, but some of them are beginning to take the face of a project where the elders are also becoming artists after retirement. We have programs that are bringing in young people, children, who are still in school, so that they can begin to embrace dance as they grow. But the main practice, is definitely going to feature people who are adults who are looking for jobs, because it is also a professional career. So you'll find people who are going to dedicate their time and energies to train so that they become good dancers, and then they can get into the dance industry, because it is growing. There are three main areas of the dance that are growing in the industry.
Yes, please tell us.
What I call the dancer, the discipline of the dance, which means dancers are getting jobs as dancers. Then there is the pedagogic, the people who have dedicated their time to teach dance, and the dance institutions, dance classes, dance schools are growing. And then there is the choreographic, people who take the opportunity to just create dance with others. They don't have to be dancers or dance teachers. They may be people like you who have ideas, who want to tell a story.
Yes.
And you want to tell the story using people's bodies. And I have worked with choreographers who are not actually trained artists. Just like some very good novel writers, novelists, are doctors, or engineers. Some of them write, and some of them are visual artists. Some of them are politicians or visual artists. When they lose, they can come back to the arts and gain social mileage. So we never say never, and there are so many possibilities for all generations, all people, to come back into the arts, to come into the arts.
Beautiful. Yes. I see Tyrone is back. Tyrone, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel more stable now.
Oh, and we can actually see that.
Yeah, I'm on my computer now, and this is actually part of the aspect of the whole project, that over the time that we've been working together, we've got much better at making our communications across the internet and online, and being able to connect up, because when we first started, we had so many hiccups with our communications, but I think we're on our side, we're advancing, and also the team in Nairobi are advancing in our technological savvy, which is also core to the project.
Yes,
that we develop our understanding of what the digital world is bringing to us as artists.
and of course, Mr. Ondiege actually mentioned just what you have, how, you know, integral the digital and the technological aspect is even for the Raundi Mwenda production. And he mentioned a bit of history, and why you are very significant is, you know, having all this history over there, you know, packaged and having the access. And I want to hear from you how that is going. It's been years down the line. Someone would even say decades for that matter. Is it difficult to make this happen, or how is there a challenge?
No, in many ways, for me, it's been an adventure of discovery, because there is so much stuff online, and there is so much stuff over here in the UK. But I just wanted to read you a little ditty that was written by an MP, Henry Labouchere. And this is where some of the spark for the naming came from. What is the use of it? None can conjecture. What will it carry? There's none can define. And in spite of George Curzon's superior lecture, it is clearly naught but a lunatic line. And that was sort of written in 1896. And when he speaks about George Curzon, of course, George Curzon was the Governor General of India, and he was obviously someone who proposed the idea of building this line, which is why the Indians were brought over to help to build it. They'd worked on the Indian line. So I mean, but recently, I mean, just as recently as the night before last, I was looking online at some YouTube clips of Jomo Kenyatta, and looking at that moment in the narrative where the independence came, and what the approach was there. So that's later on in the whole story of, if you take it from the sort of late 1900s into the 20th century, you start to see that there is such an expansive connection of the story between the UK, Britain and Kenya.
Yes.
And so reading modern poetry from Kenya, reading and watching videos of traditional and modern dance, I've been sort of imbibing a whole cultural range of the Kenyan story that before this I was unaware of. And so part of putting the project together is I'm putting a package of links, the ones that I've looked through, and written, so that becomes almost, that goes with the show, that's sort of, through the website or through Facebook or whatever, we will have a document that gives all the links that are referenced in the material. So that even though we can't tell every element of the whole story, there are bits of it referenced inside the piece that if you want to know more, you click on the link and it'll take you there. So we're not trying, we're trying to get over that problem of such a vast story by getting sort of symbolic elements, character elements, and using those as motifs throughout the piece to tell, what is a fascinating story. The Syokimau story is one that sort of blew my mind right from the beginning, and
yes.
So yeah, from my point, it's a journey of discovery, but also I think reactivating through dance what people already know, people there in Kenya know, but people here in the UK have no idea of. So my hope is that sort of after the performance here, that at some point in the future, we'll get it here in the UK, and I look forward to that day.
And what I picked there as he was ending that, first part of the conversation, I'm saying fast because I'm not wrapping up, was that there is a future. The aspect that there is a future means Round Mwenda is just beginning and there'll be more other projects. But also what he has said is there'll be a lot of reference. And now I'm thinking there is deeper meaning to art. Because then the dance will be speaking in action, but even when you get to package it for the rest of the people to watch it, there will be reference. I want to hear from you, Nema, what this means to generations to come. I am actually curious as a Kenyan. I am actually very interested so far because I want to know, like you mentioned so many names behind the railways, the children we give birth to today just know the SGR. Thanks to Round Mwenda, they'll get to know the history of the line. So I want to hear some deeper aspects to this particular project when it comes to what he has mentioned as far as the future is concerned.
Well, for me, art is a reflection of the society.
Yeah.
You use the art to reflect on the society. So when we tell the story of the lunatic line, the platform tales,
Yeah.
the lunatic line, and we tell Round Mwenda, we are basically, sort of archiving history for future generations. So whoever watches who didn't know the history will learn of the history. Whoever gets to watch the recorded version will learn a bit about the history, and if they're curious enough, they'll follow up. We've had so many products of times, plays, paintings, songs that tell the story of the time.
Yes.
And I think it's time we started archiving also our history in dance. We're telling a very
Yes.
lengthy story from 1895 until 2022, and yeah, we can tell it through dance, and anyone who watches it will be able to absorb something from it, and it's also a record for the future.
Sometimes I wish I was not a host so I could just be fully in the conversation because it could be, like you see, mental health has been an issue for so long, but with the changing times, people have said, how about you change the format of or the approach of dealing with mental health? Now telling a whole history can be boring in books.
Yeah.
But I would watch the dance for hours
Yeah.
and have the history recorded straight in my head. I want to hear from Mr. Ondieke on this particular issue. Like she has said, we are recording it for generations to come. But also there is a fascinating aspect on how Kenyans would come in. Dance is a part of the curriculum, we don't know yet, but how many more children, like you said, you work with children, would be part of telling this history?
Great. I believe that new stories should find new ways of being told. And some of the new stories are the oldest stories on earth. To the new generations, they're very new. Dance is one of the new ways of telling old stories that have not been told properly. You know that our system of education has not empowered us enough in terms of knowing the real history of this country. We know that the arts have not been integrated into the system of education yet properly. Yes,
okay.
Just a process. Yes, talent is exposed to performing arts, but not made to be artists as such.
Okay.
People drive themselves to become who they are because even big institutions that would foster the acquisition of skills in the arts are missing. To a great extent, it has to be a very practical thing. What we have in the universities are still very theory-based, and also lack of facilities. Dance requires facilities. Arts requires facilities in terms of training, and that's probably the biggest challenge that we have. That's why the system of education is not yet taking it up fully. It is expensive, we know that. Out there, children start dancing from the age of 3, and those schools are created specifically to teach them dance until they graduate when they're professionals at the age of 15 or something.
Can I interject there a little bit and go back to Tyrone on that because we're doing a bit of comparison. Tyrone, how is it there? You've mentioned the age group, 3 years old, and there is that, reception and support for these children. They are nurtured, they are supported through it. How is the experience where you are in the UK with this kind of growth?
Well, I mean, we have the Arts Council of England who fund the arts, and even here in Birmingham, there's a company, Ace Dance and Music, who were part of our collaboration last year, and they have classes on Saturdays and Sundays for everything from 3-year-olds up to 15-year-olds. Some of the people who come along as 3-year-olds with them eventually join the company as maybe 19 and 20-year-old apprentice dancers. I've seen one Iona who worked with, who joined the company as a 20-year-old dancer, and now she leads the education arm of the company as an older and more experienced dancer. Ace have also, Nomasanto, who Nima mentioned earlier, from South Africa, and Luanda came over from South Africa. Luanda created a piece for Ace Dance and Music. Nomasanto came over. She's here now. And they'll be launching their new work in the autumn. So there is a very sort of increasingly strong infrastructure. And I mentioned Leeds earlier in the north. Leeds, Phoenix Dance Company started off in 1980 as 5 16-year-old black boys who wanted to dance. I kind of worked with them on tour technically, and they established the company Phoenix. That company is now, how old? 40 years old now, and they are they have their own building, and also because of that, they generated a dance school in Leeds, Northern School of Contemporary Dance. Then they generated a building where the Phoenix are now inhabit that building alongside Northern Ballet Theatre. So there's a contemporary dance company and a ballet theatre in a brand new building that's probably only about 15 years old now. So it's sort of, there has been a growth and an understanding. I think there's an understanding that art is an important part of culture, and that culture is what we live for. We kind of like to delude ourselves that we live for money, but actually what we live for is for culture, for the exchange of human relationships, and that's culture.
All right. The exchange of human relationships.
Yeah, so just coming back to the question you raised earlier around the future of this, and therefore new generations and how they're going to be part of it. Yes. Okay, Raundi Mwenda is actually Sheng.
Yes, it is.
It was, Nani did not say that. Because, we searched and searched and searched, and it came from us that actually this term Raundi Mwenda, we have used it, and it means so many things to us. Wase wa mtaa hapa Nairobi. For those of us who grew up in Nairobi, I grew up in Nairobi in the 70s and 80s, but Raundi Mwenda is a new Sheng. But it's relatively old. So it suggests something to guys. Young people are picking up Raundi Mwenda as an idea of guys who are just being crazy, getting out of the box, doing new things, and breaking the ceiling and whatnot. And at the same time, it's about traveling and knowing and growing, and knowing the world, knowing your space.
Yes.
So I think the future can embrace with this title. They can identify with this title. Young people can pick it up and they can relate with it. And this is a reason, the reason being that if they can remember what it means to them, then they can see how the railway line has been exactly what this Raundi Mwenda exemplifies. It is because of the railway line that we have Nairobi. Starting from a small tin house like this, which is a